Hello and welcome to Lansing Pulse. I'm Ken Miller, joined as always by City Administrator Tim Vandall. Tim, we'll mix it up a little bit this time. We always ask about a development update. Let's start the show with that, and let's start with Town Center.
Well, first off, I want to say I really like that shirt you're wearing today. I promise we did not plan this. So, development update, especially with Town Center. We have a purchase agreement on the agenda for our City Council meeting next week. We're very excited. Family Eye Care will be building a building here in Lansing on a 2.1 acre lot in the Lansing Town Center. We are all incredibly excited about this. It's going to be a beautiful facility, and I think it's going to be one of those things that'll get people excited, and I think this is going to kick off other development in the Lansing Town Center area. I've seen the pictures of the building, and it's just a very impressive looking facility, so we're very excited about this. Beyond that, though, we've had a lot of interest and a lot of prospects reach out to us over the last few months. Just kicking the tires about what the purchase price of the property is, and what the zoning is, and what the city's envisioning. And one of the things that the governing body has conveyed to me and Matt Schmitz is let's explore all of our options. Let's see what people have to offer. Let's hear people out. So if someone has an idea, we want to hear it. But the thing that I would say beyond that, though, is a lot of times, ideas also need the capital behind them as well. Someone can have a great idea, but if you don't have the financial wherewithal to implement it, that idea might not get far off the ground. The other thing that I want to say too, and we've touched on this before in some of our past interviews, it's challenging because I think sometimes there is this perception among people that we can call up Kohl's and they'll start breaking ground next week, and it's really not quite that easy. In an example like that, they've got a facility 10 or 11 miles away, and anything that they would build in Lansing would cannibalize their facility 11 miles down the road, because then 50,000 of their customers would be shopping here rather than there. So I mean, there's a lot more that goes into it than sometimes people realize. But it's been nice to have so many people reach out to us about Town Center.
Right, and I wanted to follow up on that, and this is taking it a step further than what we usually talk about. But about a year ago, I think the decision was made to kind of take the middleman out of it, so that all of the contacts now for Town Center are coming straight to the city. It seems to me like that's turned out to be a pretty good decision, because we now know who's interested instead of waiting for somebody to tell us who's interested.
Yeah, and the other thing too that I can tell you about, we had a prospect who was really interested in purchasing a couple acres in Town Center 3 or 4 years ago, and this person was willing to put forth millions of dollars for his idea. And he just couldn't come to an agreement with the property owners. And that was incredibly frustrating to us, because we had put forth an incentive package for this person, and we felt like it was a very generous incentive package, but he just couldn't come to an agreement with the property owners. And in that case, we couldn't tell that property owner to sell that land for less than they wanted to. So regarding other development going on in town, though, I think most of our citizens who drive up and down K7 are seeing that new Harbor Freight building really starting to take shape. And I'm incredibly excited about that. I think that's going to be open in late October or early November. And the thing that really has me excited about that, too, I'm not a very handy guy myself. I'll joke around about that a little bit. But, folks were excited about Quick Trip, and rightfully so, and other businesses rightfully so. Harbor Freight, when you go to Harbor Freight, a lot of people who purchase things there are going to be spending $60, $70, $80 per trip, because they're buying tools and more expensive items. That's going to generate a significant amount of sales tax for Lansing. And every cent of sales tax that we get, that reduces our reliance on property taxes. So we're incredibly excited about Harbor Freight. It's going to be a great addition to our K7 corridor, and hopefully they should be open in time for people to start buying some Christmas presents there this fall.
All right. It's no surprise that Lansing, like so many other employers, is looking for good people to fill our open positions. And I think right now we've got 2 open positions based on what I saw on our website this morning. in the 6 years you've been here, and I know this personally because I've talked to you about it on and off for that time, but talk a little bit about the ebb and flow when it comes to recruitment and retention. I know at times it's incredibly frustrating. At other times I think we feel fortunate because we do have a lot of our positions filled, but I know it's been kind of a back and forth for you.
It really has been, and it's been fascinating that just in the 6 years I've been here, we've had highs and lows, but so when I first got here in 2015, we were starting to recover from that recession, but a lot of our staff really weren't to the place where they needed to be compensation wise. So the council authorized a compensation study back in 2015, and we implemented that, I believe, in 2016. And then we had maybe 2 or 3 years where we really didn't have a lot of turnover. Things were going pretty well, and we were more competitive in our market. And then just the last year and a half or so, especially with a few key jobs, but just in the last year and a half, we've had an awful lot of openings. And so during this budget session, the council authorized a public safety pay study to really focus on wages for our police officers, and it's possible next year we'll do a compensation study for the rest of our employees too. But I know for this year we were focusing on those public safety employees because police officer, that's one of those jobs that's incredibly challenging for every city to fill, whether that's Lansing or cities further south or whatever. And so that's going to be implemented this year for 2022. And then a couple other positions that, positions like street department, wastewater, parks and rec, those types of positions are getting more and more challenging to fill as well. So hopefully positions like that are really focused on for our next pay study, and hopefully we can kind of correct something if we're behind where the market says we should be. But you're right, there really has been an ebb and a flow in the last 6 years, and hopefully with these current pay studies, hopefully we can correct some of those issues.
Okay, all right, major work is expected to begin this fall on the K7 Eisenhower Intersection, and that's the one by Quick Trip that we kind of talked about at the beginning here. But in a nutshell, what can drivers expect when they really get going? Right now I think there's some utility work going on. Occasionally you'll lose a lane here and there, but it's going to get going, I think, this fall. What can they expect?
The intersection is going to be open, but it is going to be congested. It is going to be messy. I would really encourage folks to look for detours during the construction if they can, because there's going to be a few months where it's going to be pretty rough, and there's going to be a few months where there will be delays. So just be thinking about that, Lansing, as you're driving through that intersection. I will tell you what though, once it is complete, that intersection, it's going to flow better, it's going to be safer, you're not going to have to slow down as much if the person in front of you is turning. So I mean, there's going to be a lot of benefits. So the first benefit that I think people will see, that grassy area right in front of Quick Trip, that's going to be a dedicated southbound right turn lane. So a lot of times when people are driving south on K7 right now, if the person in front of you is turning right onto Eisenhower, you have to slow down, and then if you slow down, everyone behind you is slowing down as well. So that dedicated right-hand turn lane, that is going to keep traffic flowing better along K7. There's also going to be dual northbound left turn lanes. So if you're traveling northbound on K7, right now there's one left turn lane, and at 4:30, 5 p.m., that gets stacked up really bad. So there are going to be 2 left turn lanes when you're going northbound to turn left onto Eisenhower. And then I think there's also going to be a dedicated turn lane just north of Tractor Supply as well. So the project is going to make traffic flow a lot better. Right now, you touched on it, there's utility work going on. Evergy wrapped up a lot of the work that they had been doing, and they did a fantastic job. If folks remember, there were a lot of lines overhead, and it was just kind of congested looking. Evergy put a lot of their lines underground, so the intersection already looks quite a bit better from that perspective. I want to say Kansas Gas is working on some stuff right now, so there's a big trench right there at the moment. But when it's done, like I said, it's going to be a significant improvement. There will be a few months where there's going to be delays. I would encourage folks to look for detours for that time period, But overall, we're incredibly excited about that. You know, the last thing with that project that I want to touch on too, we received a substantial grant from the Kansas Department of Transportation. So, you know, Mike Spickelmeyer did a good job acquiring that grant from KDOT. That makes that project feasible for us. But beyond that too, the city of Leavenworth has been a terrific partner in this project. That's an intersection that both cities really have a say in. And we're really thankful for the partnership that they've had throughout this process. And, you know, I think one of the questions that leadership from Lansing and leadership from Leavenworth get too is, you know, how do you guys work together? Give me some examples of how you guys work together. This is an example of how both cities are putting up hundreds of thousands of dollars to make improvements to that intersection that benefit the public as a whole. And I just think that's a great example of Leavenworth and Lansing working together to improve the lives of our citizens.
Yeah. So we're recording this on August 13th. We're going to return to our occasional Saturday morning coffee with the city administrator. That's actually a week and a day from today on August 21st. It's Saturday morning. What benefit do you, and by extension Lansing staff, and there's going to be several of us there during this return to coffee, what do you get from these informal forums? I mean, you give a lot of presentations. Occasionally there's some media that we throw in there too. And I would say the times we've done it pre-pandemic, obviously, you know, there's been anywhere from 8 to 15 people who attend, and we've broadcast some of these too so other people watch. You give a presentation, this is what the city's doing, kind of like what we're doing here, but what do you get back?
You know, one of the things that maybe folks don't understand is that a lot of the feedback that I get is from folks who are affiliated with the city, you know, whether they're a volunteer, staff member, city council member, whatever. So this kind of broadens the feedback that I get. So it's not like, you know, obviously the feedback from a city council member might be different from a citizen who isn't involved in those discussions, you know. So that's one of the things that I really like, is hearing from citizens what they think is going on. The other thing that I really like too, you know, obviously there's always rumors and things that float around. And, you know, one of the things that you try to put out there in the press release on this is that, you know, no question is out of bounds.
Right.
So we've had people come in there and really kind of throw out things that they're hearing, and it gives us the chance to say, well, this is partially true. That's not true at all. That is true, and this is why it's true. So that's one of the things that I really like is, you know, it's low pressure, it's casual, it's a chance for people to say, hey Tim, what's going on with this? And that's one of the things I really like about it. You know, finally too, the other thing that I'll say, I think anyone who is on the internet or Facebook nowadays probably realizes that sometimes the feedback we get on the internet isn't always the most constructive.
Or true.
Or true,
Right,
you know. But, you know, quite frankly, though, we at the city, we really do like constructive feedback. We like to hear ideas for way things can get better, and sometimes those aren't conveyed on the internet the way they are in person. And that's one of the things that I like, is that when you get together with someone in person, you're drinking a coffee with someone, or you're having a donut with someone, maybe they can understand where you're coming from better, or maybe you understand where they're coming from. And even if you don't agree, I think you appreciate the other person's perspective more. And so that's the other thing that I really enjoy about these is the chance for constructive feedback in a professional setting where people are a little bit more cordial than they would be on the internet.
Sure. Well, and I'll tag this with a shameless plug here. If you're even more interested, let's say, you know, it's great, come by, spend 2 hours with us on a Saturday. But if you're even more interested in knowing how the city works, the inner workings and the detail, we do something called the Citizens Academy. We've put out some information about that recently. I think this is the 12th annual one. We've been doing it for a few years. I'll be running it this year, so another shameless plug. But what I would suggest is, we're up to about 6 people who have signed up, and we can take a few more. But if you really want to know what's going on, you would have the opportunity over, I think, 5 or 6 meetings over 5 or 6 months, maybe fewer than that, to ask our directors, ask our mayor, our first one, the mayor and you are going to be hosting. You can ask questions, and you're going to get materials as well. So you can really do a deep dive into how the city of Lansing works.
Those are so great too, because like you had touched on, if you have a question for our police chief, he's there. You can ask him in a really intimate setting. You can ask the mayor a question. You can ask me a question. Those events are so terrific for citizens because I think they learn so much about the inner workings. You know, they learn about things that really don't get the publicity. So yeah, I would encourage folks to sign up for that Citizens Academy.
Great. Okay. Lastly, we are going to be hosting our fall citywide garage sale in September. The registration materials have just gone out in the last week on that. You know, and I've asked you this question in different forms before with a lot of our events, and this event, we love it because it's fairly easy on staff. It's basically putting out some media reminders and then letting folks have garage sales, and you know, everybody loves a garage sale. But what does an event like this do for our city, just in terms of visibility? Because obviously everybody that's going to be driving through Lansing those 2 days, they're not from Lansing.
Yeah,
right?
You're right. It's a really big positive for the city of Lansing. Our garage sale brings in so many people from surrounding communities, people who, you know, they might not come to Lansing otherwise. So it's a great way to showcase, you know, beautiful homes, beautiful neighborhoods, what's going on in town. And beyond that too, you know, that weekend, those folks who are coming to Lansing, maybe they're stopping at our gas stations to put fuel in the tank. Maybe they're stopping at our restaurants to eat lunch or eat supper. So I think there's that benefit as well, where I think those folks are going to our businesses. But overall, it's just a fantastic event. I don't think I realized what a big event it was when I first arrived here, and then the longer I'm here, the more I hear all of these stories about people driving from 90 minutes away just to come to our garage sale. So we do a fantastic job. I know we always try to put out those nice maps on the internet so people can find their way and find you know, neighborhoods that have a lot of sales and things like that. So yeah, just a fantastic event, and our staff really does do a good job getting the word out and getting those maps done.
All right, I've been speaking with Lansing City Administrator Tim Vandall. For Lansing Pulse, I'm Ken Miller.